He didn't lower his voice. He didn't step back. He didn't even blink. The bank manager leaned in so close that his breath fogged the air between them, jabbing a finger toward her face as the entire lobby froze. I said, "Leave, now." The words cracked through the room like a whip. A gasp rippled across the waiting line. Someone dropped their pen. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Phones rose instantly, half a dozen angles, catching the moment he exploded at the black woman who hadn't moved an inch. Security closed in from the left. A young officer wrapped a hand around her arm, gripping tight as if she were already guilty. But she didn't fight, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She simply folded her arms, her posture steady anchored while the manager kept shouting inches from her face, voice swelling with entitlement and fear disguised as authority. "Don't you ignore me," he hissed. "People like you don't walk into First National Trust demanding VIP service. You think we're stupid? You think—" She interrupted him with a whisper so calm the room leaned in to hear it. 5. The manager frowned. The security guard's grip faltered. A woman in the back widened her eyes and hit record faster. 4, she continued, her voice steady, unhurried like she was counting seconds, not threats. The manager scoffed loudly. "What are you doing?" 3. A tremor moved through the lobby. Even those who didn't understand the situation felt the shift in temperature, the quiet storm coiling behind her eyes. 2 teenagers near the ATM muttered, "Bro, she's not scared at all." Well, behind the counter, a nervous teller whispered to her coworker, "She was on the VIP list this morning. I swear I saw her name." But the manager didn't hear it. Or maybe he did, maybe that's exactly why he yelled louder. "You're getting dragged out of here," he spat. "You don't belong in this bank. You, too." Silence tightened around them like a closing fist. Through the glass walls, sunlight flickered off the marble floors, catching the tension suspended in the room. People took a step back, not out of fear of her, but fear of what was about to happen to him. He leaned in again, practically nose to nose. "You're done here." She lifted her chin. "Before we continue," she said softly, yet somehow her voice reached every corner of the lobby. "Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here." Zaktivisabage's ward. Her eyes locked onto his. "Now, back to him." She exhaled, slow and steady, then whispered, 1. The room stilled. The countdown wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The lobby didn't breathe for a full second after she said, 1. Then everything happened at once. The manager stepped back not far, just an inch, but enough for the closest customers to notice the crack in his confidence. His jaw tightened. His eyes darted toward the security guard as if silently ordering him to finish the job he no longer dared to. "Don't just stand there," he barked, voice thinner than before. "Get her out." "Where those?" The guard adjusted his grip on her arm, but something in his posture shifted. He wasn't pulling anymore. He was hesitating. The entire lobby watched him hesitate, phones angled closer, lenses catching every flicker of doubt on his face. Behind the counter, a young teller barely in her 20s kept staring at her monitor as if searching for courage. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she whispered, barely audible, "I swear her name was on the VIP list. High priority flag." Debo's divots. The coworker beside her shot her a warning look. "Shh, don't get involved." But it was too late. The words had slipped into the air, and the air delivered them straight to the manager. He swiveled on his heel. "You saw what?" he snapped. The teller froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked down, shoulders tight, regret already pooling in her eyes. The manager leaned closer, towering over her. "Say it again," he demanded. "I didn't hear you." The room turned silent again. Not because they couldn't hear, but because everyone did. The tension snapped back to the woman standing in the center. She unfolded her arms calmly, her voice steady as stone. "She said what she saw," she replied, "and you know exactly what that means." A murmur spread through the line. Someone whispered, "This is about to get messy." Another customer, a woman in a beige coat, shook her head and muttered to her friend, "He's going to regret this. You can feel it." Dialed. Everyone. The manager whipped around, pointing at them. No commentary from the peanut gallery. This is bank protocol. But the crowd wasn't with him anymore. The center of gravity in the room had shifted. People stepped closer not to block her, but almost as if they were unconsciously forming a circle around her. A buffer. A witness wall. She watched all of it with quiet, measured breath. No trembling. No pleading. Just presence. Then she spoke, looking directly at the guard still holding her arm. Let go. Her tone wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was final. The guard swallowed. Slowly, carefully, he released her wrist like he suddenly realized whose arm he'd been holding. A ripple of reaction moved through the room. Someone whispered, "Oh, this is different." The manager saw it too, the shift, the unraveling of control and desperation tightened his voice. "You think you won something? You think this changes anything?" She tilted her head, eyes calm, unshaken. It already has. The room wasn't on his side anymore. It was on hers. The manager's composure cracked like thin glass. He pointed at her with a trembling hand, searching for authority he no longer possessed. "She's stalling," he snapped. "This is classic fraud behavior. Look at her, she's too calm." Too calm. The room heard it, and the irony stung. A middle-aged man near the brochures scoffed. "Too calm? My guy, you're the only one yelling." The manager ignored him. His voice rose again, louder, harsher, as if volume could glue his authority back together. "Security, I want her detained. Now. We'll verify whatever fake documents she brought in. She's wasting everyone's time." The guard didn't move. Instead, he looked at her, then at the watching phones, then at the ceiling cameras. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't just an incident. This was a record, a timeline, and he was standing on the wrong side of it. "Sir," he murmured to the manager, "we don't even know what she did." "She existed," the manager spat. "That's enough." 2. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Even he seemed startled by his own words, but he didn't take them back. The silence that followed was colder than the marble floors. She stood perfectly still, eyes steady on him, studying, not reacting. Then she spoke. "That's what this is about, isn't it? You saw my skin first, my clothes second, everything else after." The manager stiffened, aggressively straightening his tie. "Don't you dare pull that card. I treat everyone the same." Wiley report to do. "Interesting," she murmured, "because you didn't raise your voice at the man who tried to skip the line 20 minutes ago." Heads turned. People remembered. Someone whispered, "That did happen." The manager's jaw clenched. "Stay out of this." But the teller, the young one, the only one who had tried to speak earlier, finally stepped forward. Her voice shook, but she made herself heard. You didn't treat him like this," she said softly. "Or the woman with the counterfeit check last week. You weren't." "Quiet!" the manager barked. The girl flinched. The crowd recoiled. He had lost control, and everyone felt it. She took a single step toward him, not aggressive, not confrontational, just present. "You're spiraling," she said quietly, "and everyone can see it." His face flushed red. "You think you're smarter than me? You think you can embarrass me in front of my staff?" "You embarrassed yourself," she replied. A woman near the exit whispered, "She's playing chess. He's stuck on checkers." The manager slapped his hand onto the counter. "That's it," he hissed. "I'm calling the police." He reached for the landline. The entire lobby held its breath. He dialed the first number, then the second. His finger hovered over the third, and right before he pressed it, she lifted her phone to her ear, calm, steady, unmoved by the chaos he created. "Carla," she said, voice quiet but carrying across the room. "Initiate Protocol 6. The room froze. The manager's finger stopped midair, and the story shifted. The word Protocol 6 didn't mean anything to the crowd, but it meant everything to the manager. His hand froze above the keypad. The lobby fell so still that even the printers in the back seemed to stop humming. "What did you just say?" he demanded. She didn't answer him. She was listening. A click came through her phone. Then a calm, efficient voice. "I'm here. Proceed. Carla." No title. No introduction. Just a tone that carried authority without needing to explain itself. The manager scoffed too quickly, too nervously. "Oh, please. What is this? Your cousin pretending to be corporate? Hang up the phone. You're done. But the guard stepped back from him, not her. Not because he understood Protocol 6, he didn't, but because he felt the shift. Everyone did. A few customers exchanged glances. One whispered, "Who the hell has a hotline to corporate like that?" Another answered, "Not someone who's lying." The manager snapped, "Nobody move. This is my branch. My rules." But the words didn't hold the weight they had 5 minutes ago. Carla's voice filtered cleanly through the speaker. "Logs are open. I'm accessing the branch network now." The young teller at the counter inhaled sharply. She knew what that meant. The system wasn't supposed to be touched without regional approval, and certainly not without a scheduled audit. Her eyes darted to the manager. He had gone pale. "Stop whatever you're doing," he shouted at the phone, at her, at the air. "You can't run a remote audit through a personal call." But Carla continued, unfazed, flagging discrepancies in manager-level activity, pulling complaint histories, cross-referencing bias markers. The teller whispered, "Bias markers? That's only used in discrimination reviews." The manager slammed the receiver down so hard the counter rattled. "That's enough. This woman is manipulating all of you? You think some random nobody can access corporate systems?" He spun toward the guard. "Detain her. Now." But the guard didn't move. Because at that exact moment, the overhead lights flickered just once, followed by a soft notification chime from the teller's screen. A red box appeared. "Access override." The teller gasped. Her coworker stumbled back from his station. What just happened?" Carla spoke again, her voice cutting through the air like a perfectly honed blade. "Branch manager. Under review. Access. Temporarily restricted. Incident log. Recording." The manager staggered. "What? No. You can't lock me out. I run this place." She finally looked him in the eye. "No," she said softly. "You manage it." Her voice didn't rise, didn't taunt, but it landed harder than any shout. A man in line whispered, "Oh, he's done." The manager grabbed the counter to steady himself, fury and fear tangled across his face. "Who are you?" he choked out. She didn't answer. Not yet. Protocol 6 was just getting started. The lockout alert was still glowing red on every teller screen when the manager snapped. He lunged toward the nearest terminal, jabbing at the keys like brute force could reopen the doors closing around him. Nothing responded. Every click was met with the same cold message. Access suspended. A few customers stepped back instinctively, like watching a man punch water and drown in his own panic. "Who authorized this?" he shouted at the room. "Who?" No one answered, because the answer was standing quietly in the center of the lobby. He stormed toward her, stopping only when the guard stepped between them. But the manager shoved the guard aside. "You think this scares me?" he hissed. "Some glitch? Some freak coincidence? No, this is you. You're doing something to my branch." He was so close now, his tie brushed her sleeve. She didn't move. "You're going to tell me exactly who you called." 2, 1, 1, 2. She exhaled slow, measured, a calm that infuriated him because he could never touch it. "You're spiraling again," she murmured. The manager's face twisted, as if the truth had slapped him harder than any hand could. Then he grabbed her wrist. Hard. Gasps shot through the lobby. The guard froze. The tellers froze. Even the overhead lights seemed to hold their breath. A woman near the door whispered, "Oh my God, did he just—" He leaned in, fingers digging into her skin. "You think you're special? You think you can walk in here with your little attitude and bring chaos? People like you walk in with fake cards, fake names, fake stories, and every single time, we have to clean up the mess. People like you." The phrase echoed through her like an old bruise being pressed. She wasn't in the bank anymore. For a split second, she was 19 again, standing outside a credit union in Atlanta while a teller refused to cash her first real paycheck because her face didn't match her resume. She was 24, being questioned for withdrawing her own deposit because young girls don't make that kind of commission. She was 31, watching a loan officer look at her skin before looking at her paperwork. And now she was here, at a bank she owned, being dragged through the same script, her eyes sharpened not with anger, but with clarity. "Let go," she said, voice low. He squeezed harder. No, not until the police get here. The young teller, the one who had tried to speak earlier, stepped forward again, shaking but braver this time. Sir, please, she didn't do anything. And grabbing a customer, Quiet, he roared, rounding on her. Do you want to join her? The teller shrank back, eyes wet but defiant. A man from the line yelled, You can't put your hands on her! What's wrong with you? Phones raised higher. Voices rose louder. The fragile order of the lobby began to crack. The guard reached out, trying to intervene. Sir, you need to release her. No, the manager spat. She stays right here until the cops arrive, and then we'll see how calm she is. She looked him dead in the eye. You're about to learn what calm really is. Her phone vibrated once in her hand. Carla's voice returned, razor sharp. Phase 2 of Protocol 6 is active. Well, the breaking point had arrived. The vibration in her hand was soft, but in the charged silence of the lobby, it felt like thunder. Carla's voice came through crisp, clinical, and impossibly calm. Phase 2 confirmed. I'm escalating to internal oversight now. The manager didn't understand the words, but he understood tone. That tone didn't belong to a scammer, or a random customer, or anyone he could intimidate. It belonged to someone with authority, real authority. But denial is stubborn. He clung to it like a life raft. Nice try, he scoffed, fingers still locked around her wrist. Your little friend can pretend all she wants. I'm not falling for this. She looked down at his hand. Not with anger, with expectation. Last warning, she said. He squeezed harder. Make me. Around them, the room tensed. Every witness felt the shift. The moment right before something irreversible happens. Carla continued, voice unfazed. Manager behavior flagged. Physical contact with client. Pulling footage from overhead cameras. Syncing customer cell phone angles. Compiling timeline. A customer in a hoodie whispered, Wait, did she just say compiling angles? Another replied, Bro, that's AI audit level. That's corporate grade stuff. The manager barked out a laugh, but it wavered. That's not possible. She can't access any of that without. His words cut off when every teller screen blinked simultaneously. New alert. Ethics review. Active. A hush fell. The young teller covered her mouth. Sir, that's not a normal audit. That only happens when corporate investigates discrimination claims. The coworker beside her took a step back. This is above us. The manager shook his head violently. No, this is some kind of trick. Someone is spoofing the system. Our way. Carla spoke again. Proceeding with staff compliance check. Pending. Escalation to board liaison. Board. The word hit the lobby like a dropped steel beam. A man in line whispered, Wait, who has a direct line to the board? A woman beside him murmured, Not the manager, clearly. The guard tried again, voice shaking. Sir, let go of her. This is getting out of hand. But the manager clung tighter, desperation bleeding into his voice. She's a fraud. She's orchestrating this. You're all being manipulated. Then, another vibration. Her phone lit up with a new notification. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Carla, she said, tone even, run the internal match. A brief pause. Then, running. Cross-referencing personnel actions with complaint histories. 6 matches found. Manager linked to 4. The room reacted like a wave crashing. Gasps. Whispers. A few curses under breath. The young teller looked horrified. 4. Oh my God. The manager's grip faltered just slightly. She raised her eyes to his. You keep calling me a fraud, she said quietly, but your record is catching up faster than your voice. His face contorted anger, fear, disbelief twisting into one trembling expression. You don't get to come into my branch and threaten me, he hissed. Oh, she replied, stepping closer. I haven't threatened you. Her phone buzzed one more time. Carla's voice returned. Phase 3 ready on your command. And just like that, the turn was complete. Phase 3. The phrase didn't echo through the lobby. It pulsed through it. The manager finally released her wrist, not out of respect, but because his hand had gone cold with fear. He stumbled back a step, then another. What is Phase 3? He demanded, voice cracking in front of every witness. She didn't answer. But Carla did. Phase 3. Full authority verification. Preparing executive identity confirmation. Executive. The word rippled through the room like electricity, finding metal. A man in a business suit near the window said under his breath, "Executive. Of what?" A woman filming whispered, "Bro, it's the way she's standing. She's not scared of anyone here." The manager pointed at the phone in her hand, his finger shaking. "You turn that off right now. I'm ordering you to stop whatever this is." She tilted her head slightly, the quietest expression of disbelief the room had ever seen. "You don't give me orders." He froze, because the way she said it didn't sound metaphorical. It sounded literal. Carla continued, unbothered by the chaos. "Confirming branch ownership structure. Checking acquisition records. Stand by." The guard's eyes widened. "Branch ownership?" The young teller whispered to her coworker. "Wait, didn't we get acquired 2 years ago? What if—" "No." The manager slammed his palm onto the counter again. "She is not tied to corporate. I would know." "Whiz." But his voice was shrinking, losing altitude fast. She took one step forward, not threatening, just claiming the space he had taken from her. And for the first time since the incident began, he stepped back. "You escalated this," she said quietly. "You put your hands on me. You called me a thief. You told the entire lobby I didn't belong here." He swallowed. "You don't," he muttered, weaker now. "People like you." The crowd reacted instantly. A man near the ATM snapped, "Say it again. I dare you." A woman added, "You've already ruined your career. Don't bury it." The manager's face went blotchy, sweat gathering at his temples. "This is manipulation," he insisted. "She hacked something. Someone hacked something. This can't be real." But every screen in the branch suddenly flickered. Not randomly, but in sync. A system message appeared across all terminals, verifying executive authority. "Do not interrupt." Gasps. Shuffling steps. Hands covering mouths. The young teller whispered, "I've only seen that once, during an internal takeover." The manager spun toward her. "Stop talking." But she kept going, her voice trembling. "If that prompt is authentic, then she outranks corporate. She outranks everyone." The guard whispered, "Sir, I think you need to stop." He didn't, because panic had finally overtaken pride. "You," he shouted at her. "Who are you?" She didn't blink. Carla's voice returned, soft, inevitable. "Identity confirmation compiled. Just say the word." The lobby held its breath. The reveal was no longer coming. It was seconds away. The lobby no longer felt like a bank. It felt like a courtroom waiting for a verdict. Every screen continued to pulse with the same message. Verifying executive authority. Do not interrupt. The manager stared at the terminals as if sheer willpower could undo them. But the more he stared, the clearer it became. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a trick. This was a system bowing to someone it recognized. And that someone wasn't him. He spun toward his staff. "Do something. Reset the network. Pull the plug." The tellers didn't move. The young one, her voice still shaking but braver than before, said softly, We're not allowed to interrupt an authority verification. Only the board can." "No," he snapped, desperation tightening every syllable. "Only I can. I run this branch. I decide what happens here." The guard shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, with all due respect, it doesn't look like that anymore." A few customers murmured in agreement. Someone recorded closer. Someone else whispered, "He's cooked." The manager jabbed a finger toward the woman at the center of it all, the woman who still hadn't raised her voice once. "This is you. You hacked something. You called someone you shouldn't have, and I'm not going to lose my career because you walked in here with fake confidence." She looked at him calmly. "You lost your career when you grabbed me." A collective gasp rippled across the room. Carla's voice slid cleanly into the moment. "Manager conduct archived. Physical contact timestamp logged. Escalating to ethics board." His face drained of color. "No, you can't escalate me. You have no right." But his protest died in his throat when the overhead speakers chimed. A sound no one in the branch had ever heard. A system-wide alert. A robotic voice announced, "Branch manager access revoked. Temporary operational control shift in progress." The room erupted into murmurs. What does that mean? Is he fired? Is this real? Oh, he's done. Done. The manager stumbled backward, gripping the counter to keep himself upright. This is illegal, he stammered. She's nobody. She's nothing. A customer at the front of the line cut him off. Then why is the system listening to her and not you? The comment hit harder than any shove. He turned toward the staff again, almost pleading. Tara, please, he said to the young teller. Tell them she can't be part of corporate. Tell them she's lying. Tara swallowed. Her hands trembled, but not with fear of him. Sir, the system only does this for one type of person. He froze. What type? He whispered. She looked toward the woman. The type with higher clearance than all of us combined. The lobby inhaled. The woman did not. Carla's voice returned smooth, unhurried, absolute. Executive identity verification complete. Awaiting your confirmation to reveal. Just works at it. Dozens of phones lifted. Dozens of eyes widened. The manager stood trembling, broken at the edges, his voice barely a whisper. Who are you? And all she said was, not yet. The reveal would come, on her terms. The lobby had gone silent in that peculiar way crowds do when they sense history tightening its grip around the room. Every screen still glowed with the same message. Executive identity verified. Awaiting confirmation. Her phone rested calmly in her hand. The manager's knees seemed to soften. No one breathed. Carla's voice came through like the clean cut of a blade. Ready when you are. Is my president. She finally looked up slowly, her gaze sweeping across the lobby, across every witness, every raised phone, until it landed back on the man who had spent the last 20 minutes unraveling himself in public. He tried to stand straighter, but he looked like a man bracing against an incoming wave he could no longer pretend wasn't real. Stop, he whispered. Just stop. You've made your point. She stepped forward once. No, she said quietly. Not yet. Another step. The guard instinctively moved to the side, giving her a clear path. The crowd parted without being asked, like a current shifting around a stone it respected. The manager backed up until the counter edge dug into his spine. You don't have to do this, he breathed. We can talk. I can apologize. It's too late for apologies, she murmured. The screens behind him flickered again, this time displaying a new prompt. Executive presence confirmed. Display profile? N. Her thumb hovered over her phone. The room trembled with anticipation. Carla spoke softly. On your word, ma'am. The manager shook his head furiously. Ma'am? Mom? No, she's nobody. She walked in here wearing jeans. Someone in the back whispered, and still outranked your entire staff. Another added, this is wild. I'm never forgetting this. They doesn't frumt. She inhaled a slow, measured breath and pressed the button. Yes. Instantly, the lobby screens changed. Her face appeared first. Then her name. Then her title, each word landing like a judge's gavel, slamming down. Vanessa Cole. Chief Executive Officer. Cole Financial Holdings Parent Company, First National Trust. The room erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Hands flying to mouths. A wave of disbelief crashing into a wave of vindication. The manager's legs buckled. He slid halfway down the counter before catching himself. No, he whispered, shaking. No, you're lying. This is fake. This is fake. But the staff terminals were already locking him out. A red banner blinked across every screen. Branch manager. Terminated. Access permanently revoked. The guard stared at the message. The tellers stared at him. And the crowd stared at her. Vanessa stepped closer until only a foot separated them. You yelled in my face, she said softly. You grabbed me. You humiliated me in front of my own clients. And the entire time, she leaned in just enough for only him and the front row of phones to hear. You never realized I own the bank you tried to throw me out of. The manager broke. Completely. One customer whispered, she didn't even raise her voice. Another murmured, that's real power. Vanessa turned away from him. She didn't need to watch him fall. The system and the witnesses handled the rest. The moment Vanessa turned away, the lobby felt different. Lighter for everyone, and impossibly heavier for him. The manager slid fully to the floor, back against the counter, staring at the termination notice blinking across every screen like a heartbeat he couldn't stop. Terminated. 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 He tried to speak, but no words came, only a rasp, like his voice had deserted him along with his authority. The guard stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture halfway between apology and surrender. "Miss Cole," he said carefully, I didn't know." Vanessa didn't turn around yet. "You didn't ask," she replied. The line hit the room harder than any shout could have. The young teller, Tara, took a timid step forward. "Miss Cole, I'm so sorry. I tried to say something earlier. I just—" "You did," Vanessa said gently, finally facing her. "And you will not be punished for trying to do the right thing." Tara's shoulders sagged, relief flooding her face. Her coworker looked away, shame rising to the surface like a bruise. Behind them, the manager finally found his voice, thin, shaky, unraveling. "Please," he whispered. "Please, Miss Cole. Vanessa, I didn't know. If I had known—" "That's the problem," she cut in. Her eyes were calm, but her words were sharp enough to cleave the room in two. "You would have treated me better if you had known. Not because it was right. Not because it was fair. But because you were afraid." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She continued, "You didn't see a client. You didn't see a person. You saw a stereotype, and you acted on it." A murmur of agreement washed through the crowd. A man near the brochures muttered, "Exactly. Happens every day." A woman added softly, "And they always think no one's watching." "There's a modeled." Vanessa stepped closer, not to intimidate, but to ensure he heard every syllable. "You grabbed me," she said, "in my own branch, in front of my own customers." His head dropped. Shame finally caught up to him. The overhead speakers chimed. Carla's voice returned. "Miss Cole, HR and corporate compliance have joined the channel. Awaiting your directive regarding staff disposition." The manager flinched, like the words were physical. Vanessa didn't look at him. Not anymore. Instead, she addressed the room. "Everyone who witnessed this, thank you for staying," she said. "Your videos and statements will ensure there's no rewriting of what happened today." People nodded. Some murmured assent. Others held their phones a little tighter, protective of the truth they'd captured. Then she turned to the staff, her tone shifting firmer, but fair. Those who stood by and did nothing. She let the pause sit. "Will be reviewed." A collective breath tightened. "And those who tried to do the right thing," she looked at Tara, "will be recognized." Tara's eyes brimmed with emotion. Then Vanessa faced the guard. "You let go when you realized something was wrong," she said. "That matters." He nodded, almost grateful for the acknowledgement. Finally, her gaze drifted back to the man crumpled on the floor. "You asked earlier who I am," she said softly. "And you learned." He lifted his eyes, glossy with humiliation. "Please, don't ruin my life." Vanessa didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because his fall had already begun, and the consequences were still coming. The lobby was no longer a battlefield, just a room full of people watching justice assemble itself piece by piece. The manager stayed, slumped against the counter, his badge blinking red, his access revoked, his authority dissolved into the marble beneath him. Carla's voice echoed again through Vanessa's phone, unrushed, surgical, corporate compliance online. "Legal team is reviewing footage. Recommend immediate security escort per Protocol 6. A murmur spread through the room. Everyone knew what that meant. The guard straightened, shifting uneasily as he realized the next step in front of an audience of dozens. He approached the manager slowly. "Sir, I'm going to need your badge." The manager recoiled like the request had burned him. No, you can't. I built this branch. I trained this staff. I made it—" "You made it hostile," Vanessa said quietly. He froze. "You built a branch where some people were welcome," she continued, "and others were tolerated at best, excluded at worst." Her tone wasn't cruel. It was clinical, a diagnosis spoken aloud. "You built your own downfall," she finished. The guard stepped closer. "Badge, sir." Hands trembling, the manager fumbled with the lanyard and ripped it off, slamming it into the guard's palm. The gesture wasn't defiant. Just the last frantic gesture of a man watching the last piece of his identity slip away. Customers watched with a strange mixture of satisfaction and solemnity. Someone whispered, "This is what accountability looks like." Another added, "She didn't even raise her voice once." Carla spoke again. "Miss Cole, security team en route. ETA, 3 minutes." "Thank you," Vanessa replied softly. The manager's chest rose and fell too fast. "Please," he said, voice cracking. "My wife, my kids, please don't do this. I was just doing my job." "No," Vanessa said. "You were abusing it." He swallowed, face paling. "And the part you still don't understand," she added, "is that your behavior didn't start with me. It started years ago, with every person you dismissed, disrespected, or profiled because you believed they wouldn't fight back." A tear slipped down his cheek. Not from remorse, but from fear. Vanessa didn't soften. "You created this moment," she said. "Not me." Behind her, Tara stepped forward hesitantly. "Miss Cole, what happens to the branch?" Vanessa turned her gaze to the staff. Not angry, but resolute. "Change happens," she said, "starting today." The words swept through the lobby like a cleansing wind. The manager pressed his palms to the floor as if the marble could hold him together. "Vanessa," he whispered, barely a sound. "Please," shading the catted. She looked at him just long enough to acknowledge the plea, then turned away. "You'll answer to compliance and HR," she said. "Not to me." Her footsteps echoed across the marble. Steady, unhurried, unshakable. The guard gave the manager one last sympathetic look. "I'm sorry, sir. They're here." The revolving doors opened, and the branch's own security team stepped inside. The security team entered like a silent verdict. 3 officers in dark uniforms crossed the lobby with steady steps, their presence enough to shift the room's breath. They didn't need to ask who the incident was about. The screens told the story. The crowd told the rest. "Manager Vance," one officer said, voice low but firm. "Please stand." He didn't, or couldn't. The officers exchanged a knowing look, then gently lifted him by the arms. His legs wobbled, the last of his resistance dissolving in front of the very customers he had once lorded authority over. "No," he whispered, defeated. "Not like this." But this was exactly like this, and everyone watching knew why. The officers guided him toward the exit. The crowd parted, not out of fear, but out of quiet, collective judgment. Phones followed him all the way to the doors. When they opened, a cold gust swept in sharp, symbolic. The moment he disappeared outside, the lobby seemed to inhale again for the first time in 20 minutes. The aftermath settled like dust after a controlled demolition. Tara stepped closer. "Miss Cole, thank you for saying something, for being who you are." Vanessa looked at her, the young teller who dared to speak, waver, step forward, then stand. "Courage doesn't mean being loud," Vanessa said. "It means not shrinking when the moment calls your name." Tara nodded, eyes stinging. One of the customers, a woman in a beige coat, approached hesitantly. "Miss Cole," she said. I've seen things like this before. Never seen it end like this." Vanessa gave a small, steady smile. "It ends like this when silence ends," she replied. Carla's voice chimed softly through the phone again. "Branch is stable. Compliance taking full control. Would you like a car sent?" Vanessa shook her head. "No, I'll walk." She pocketed her phone, turning toward the main exit. But before she reached the door, she paused. The entire lobby waiting, without realizing they were waiting. She turned back, letting her gaze sweep the room one last time. "Today wasn't about rank," she said, "or power." Her voice was soft, but every ear caught it. It was about dignity, the kind every person deserves the moment they walk through a door. The room felt the truth of it deep, quiet, undeniable. She stepped closer to the center of the lobby, the marble floor reflecting her composure like polished glass. "I didn't raise my voice," she said. "I raised the standard." A hush followed. Not shock, not fear, but respect. Pure, unfiltered respect. Then she turned, pushed open the revolving door, and walked into the daylight, leaving behind a branch forever changed, a staff forever humbled, and a crowd that would never forget the day they saw a woman regain her dignity without ever lifting her volume. Justice didn't roar. It walked out the door in silence.